Welcome to the Tactical Considerations channel. Mike here, and I know a lot of you have been waiting for this since the Recoil Arms 2311s were announced a couple years ago at SHOT Show, and I have got the full size and the compact right here that we are going to talk about today, now that the range testing, at least for the initial video, is completely wrapped up. Quickly though, I have to do a bit of a disclaimer. So I know several of the people who work over at Recoil Arms. I knew them prior to them working at Recoil Arms, and I knew them long before Recoil Arms or the 2311 was even an idea. So just so we're aware of that, but that will not change how the review goes down or anything that may have happened during the review. And I know that is their expectation, because if there's a problem, they want to know about it. And I know that all of you expect that here from the channel, because nobody gets a free pass. And first things first, how did these things run? As you can see, they ran like absolute champs out there. I do have to say though, it was not my best performance. The past several weeks, actually the past couple of months now, I have been battling a pretty gnarly wrist injury on my primary hand. So as I press out and I pull the trigger, or even as I draw the pistol, it literally feels like my wrist is breaking up in there. So I didn't run this, I guess, as fast and as flat as I normally could have, but we've got to keep grinding here on the channel. We've got to keep putting out content, because if I didn't get the content out on these 2311s from Recoil Arms, the internet gods would strike down upon me with great vengeance and furious anger. Let me know if you remember what movie that came from. Now, before we get to the rest of the range footage here on the compact and the full size, we've got to give some love to the sponsor for today's video, and that's going to be TCRT targets. Now, these are eco-friendly, self-healing targets that will just last forever, especially if you compare these things to cardboard, and they're not nearly as heavy or as cumbersome as trying to carry around steel plates with you. You can put round after round after round through these things, and they will keep going. So if you're interested in a target that's going to pretty much last forever, check out TCRT. I'll have a link for that stuff over at the build list. All right, so for the rest of the range performance here, both on the compact and the full size, I ran all of the ammunition I normally run when it comes to testing these things on the range. Basic 115 grain, 124 grain, 124 grain plus P self-defense ammo, which is usually spear, which is what I like to carry. And of course, I ran some of those new cool Jello shots from Badlands Munitions, which are 147 low recoil rounds, which are pretty sweet if you're into the competition thing. But I had no issues on either pistol cycling through any of that ammunition, whether it was basic ball or hollow point style self-defense ammo. Even critical duty with those polymer style insert things ran just fine. I did run the full size and the little compact one here from a holster, because there are some existing options you can use, and there are some that are going to be in design right now. So we'll talk more about holsters in just a minute. Running both of these on the range from a retention holster, I did all the basic drills I like to do. Build drills, transition drills, reload drills, emergency reloads, all that good stuff, just to get a good overall feel for both the size of these pistols, how they're going to run, the safety, the controls, those recoil edges. And I was very happy with the performance and the style of both of these pistols out on the range. And both of them ran 100% with all of the ammunition that I tested out there. I do want you to pay attention to the recoil on these things though, because at certain points in the video, it looks like they're running much flatter than other points. And again, that has to do with the injury that I've got on my primary hand right now with that wrist. So not my best day out there, but in some of the scenes you'll see where it's running super flat, and other scenes it looks like there's a little bit more muzzle flip or muzzle rise, and that's a me thing, not a pistol thing when it comes to the Recoil Arms 2311. In fact, there was one drill where I actually caught it on camera where I had to like completely readjust my grip and open it up a little bit and then reacquire it, because my wrist had kind of locked up so bad after completing that reload drill. So for those that are going to ask how flat does it run, it's going to run flatter than some, maybe not as flat as others, but a lot of that's going to come down to your experience, training, and just kind of the grip you have on this thing. I will say that the factory grip angle, the recoil edges and everything going on there are a big help. But overall, they felt very good on the range. Everything from the less aggressive grip angle, you've got that big extended beaver tail right there. You've got those recoil reduction ledges that you can see on both sides. So my lefties and my righties get some love. It's also a left and right compatible slide stop, so there's ambi controls there. Just overall well thought out. They kind of merged some of the stuff from the competition world into what they're designing as a duty pistol, and it just seemed to run. And it's got a solid 1911 trigger in it. So this is not like a striker fired setup. It is a 1911 trigger in there. We are going to do some trigger pulls in this thing, but I need you to bear in mind, they set this for a duty carry 4.5 pounds. So keep that in mind when we are doing the trigger pulls, but it's a 1911 trigger, so things can be done to it if you get what I'm saying. And then once I wrapped up the range drills with the full size and the compact, there were a couple of small little things that I noticed, maybe some quirks or some little things you need to pay attention to should the Oracle Arms 2311 be something that you are interested in, that you definitely are going to want to know about. Now, if you like seeing content like this or getting information on new products like the Oracle Arms 2311, make sure you subscribe to the channel. That's going to do a couple things. One, it'll make sure you don't miss any videos when new cool stuff comes out. But two, it will signal to the YouTube algorithm to push this video to other people, maybe some of which have never been exposed to 2A content or gun content before. So it can kind of send them down the path of interest and maybe put some more people on our side. So go ahead and subscribe. And if you think you're subscribed, just make sure you double check you still are. All right, now the first little thing I did notice has to do specifically with the full-size version because it has the larger extended controls on it right there for the safety lever on it. Now, Dara is making a duty style holster for this. US Duty Gear is going to be making a duty style holster for this. And on Oracle Arms website, it does say that some SIG P320 full size with a light holsters were compatible. I did try this exact one with a TLR1HL on my Safariland ALS holster. It did not work in there. So I ran the Blackhawk Omnivore, which I'm sure you guys have seen on the holster or here on the channel many times. It's a multi-fit holster. And then for concealed carry, you can run the Tier 1 MFP. It's a multi-fit holster as well because it attaches to the light up in front. So you can pretty much run just about any modern pistol in those things. Now, the thing I did notice with the full size running those extended controls, if you use the Blackhawk Omnivore holster, just due to where the little thumb brake is, the second you hit that to release the retention on the holster, you automatically disengage the safety. I know some of you might train like that. Me personally, generally when I'm running a 1911 style pistol or a safety style pistol, I wait until I draw, and as I'm coming up on target, I'm usually disengaging the safety right about here because I know I'm going to engage the targets down range, and then I go ahead and I start my work and my drills, put the safety back on and holster. I'm not saying one way is right or wrong. I'm just saying if you're going to run it in a Blackhawk Omnivore holster, be aware that due to the extended controls, as you press the thumb brake on that holster, you're likely disengaging the safety right away at the same time. So just something to pay attention to. All right, now I know many of you want to see just how good that trigger is, and bear in mind they're set for 4.5 duty rated pounds. So we're going to go ahead and do a couple of pulls right now so you get a good idea of what about 500 rounds on the full size and an unknown amount probably in the 10,000 plus range with the compact and how those triggers are wearing in. All right, let's go ahead and do trigger pulls on these here with the full size first. Since it has the least amount of rounds, let's check that trigger. So that tiny bit of movement that is normal for 1911 styles right there, safety off, there's your wall, and it just breaks, right? That's how 1911s work. Reset, break, reset, and a break. Now they set these from the factory, give that a full rack, for 4.5 pounds. It feels like it's right about there. We'll do 3 pulls unless I do something wrong. New digital gauge here that a viewer sent in. Thank you very much. And let's go ahead and get these things spec'd out. All right, 3.48. That's a little bit light. It honestly feels like it's about 4 pounds to me, but we'll keep grinding here. 2.52. All right, let me try to pull from the exact same center of the trigger here. So that 4.6, we're going to do one more because I might have been kind of pulling this a little funky, or the gauge is reading a little funky. So let's get straight linear here, and 4.28. So that's about what it feels like to me. Let's get this one out of the way, and we'll go ahead and work on the compact version here, which has a lot more rounds, as you can see, and we'll see where this trigger is pulling at right now. All right, so that one came in at 4.94. This one feels a little lighter. Again, I might have drug the rubber on that a little bit. 4.98 again. Interesting. So let's get one more good one here, unless we get something weird. Okay, 3.9. We're gonna do one more, okay? I might be dragging this part of the rubber across the frame right there, so I'm trying to get just the edge of it on there since it's a little bit thicker. Helps if you reset the hammer, right guys? Striker, a hammer gun. All right, 3.48, let's give it one more because I think those first ones were me dragging across the grip module. Yep, it was definitely me. So you can see 3.64 in there. Heck, let's do one more just to prove that I was the problem. 3.52. Doesn't get much better than that when it comes to these things, but overall, very solid performing trigger. All right, now this is the part where we talk about, did I have any issues out there, quirks that I found, or kind of problems with the Oracle Arms 2311, because like I've said, nobody gets a pass here on the channel. First thing we're going to talk about is the Magwell, because that was a comment I got in the videos. As you can see right there, there are those relief cuts in the Magwell. That is so you can actually run these standard SIG base plate magazines right there. So you can see that base plate has a good flare on it because that's just how SIG did it. That's how the Oracle Arms factory magazines are, which I think are only like 35 bucks, so they're a pretty good deal. But inside that Magwell, there is still plenty of flare to work with. I'll get you guys a look at it right there. So when you're going to do those exchanges, you can get it in there. Usually no problem at all like that. But that was an actual design feature from Oracle Arms, so you could use all of your existing mags on there, whether it's the full size, the compact, the 21 rounders. You can obviously use the full size and up to 21 round, or you can use all the magazines in the compact, whether it's the compact, full size, or the extended 21 rounders. A lot of people commented on that, but that's an actual design feature built into the pistol, so you don't have to go out and buy expensive $30, $40 base pads to make it work with the Oracle Arms Magwell. The next little thing I did notice with the Oracle Arms, if you look at the rail right there, it's going to be your light placement. So as my support hand comes under the trigger guard, as you can see, that is right where the activation switches are going to be. So if you're going to run a TLR1HL or another light that has kind of paddle switches you can operate up and down, you need to use the appropriate insert, because I'm sure a lot of you noticed that as I was running this pistol out there, I was accidentally activating or ADing my light a bunch. Now, I normally never do that when I'm running a pistol, but I just took it off a Glock and put it on here, and the insert that was in that light pushed those activation switches so far back that as I had my support hand on the pistol, you could see I would be activating the buttons on the side right there. So just a note to self for you, make sure you get the right light or use the right spacer to give yourself a little bit of room if you've got like double XL size hands, so you're not like setting your weapon light off every time you pull the trigger. Another thing that I noticed and a couple of viewers noticed in the unboxing video was the plates here. So this will come with all of your optics plates ready, and they do have an iron sight in front of the optic. But as you can see right there, you're not going to lose your iron sights, and they will give you a taller night sight, which is bold orange in the front. But I noticed, and a viewer noticed, that it wasn't clearing the one that had the hollow sun on it right here. So you can see that iron sight is a bit short of actually co-witnessing there. So these are pre-release plates. All of the plates that will actually ship with an Oracle 2311 will give you that lower 1/3 co-witness. So you got an iron sight in the front of the optic to save the glass, and you've got the taller night sight you can put in there. But since this is pre-release, I got one of the pre-designed phase or pre-release plates that doesn't give me that. However, all of you will get it if you order it, except for the SRO. So since the SRO comes so far forward, they can't get an iron sight in front because it would be, you know, over the ejection port right there. But all of your other main optics, Leupold, Holosun, RMR, all that stuff, or their clones, you're going to be able to get the plate on there, and you're going to be able to have that backup iron sight, because I know that is super important to some people. Another thing that came up in a comment where, as you can see on the side of the grip right here, you've got button head style bolts there that are a Torx pattern. Somebody was like, oh, I can't believe you put those on there. It's right on the grip, blah, blah, blah. It's not an issue. Trust me, I ran these things plenty. I've got pretty good sized hands, as you can see right there. You don't even know that those things are there. Somebody brought that up. It may not be the perfect look you were going for because they're not recessed into the grip, but trust me, it's not going to throw you off. You're not even going to know you're not even going to know those things are there when you're under recoil. So I think it was kind of a non-issue, but it was like an aesthetic thing that a couple of people mentioned in the comments. So I guess if that's your thing, then okay. As far as the reliability on the full size and the compact, it was 100%. Like I said, the full size was a brand new setup. It's got just over 500 rounds in it. We're right at 500, where the compact one was a trade show pistol. So this thing had been at TriggerCon, GunCon, SHOT Show, and has like multiple thousands of rounds. I would say probably over 10K through it based on me watching people just run a train on this thing. I did notice something specifically with the compact and the magazines and that is the base plate right here does contact the inside of the mag a little bit there, just enough to not give it any wiggle room. As you can see right there, you want a little bit of wiggle room in your mags so they drop free easily, and it's just barely enough to make it a little bit stiff on that magazine release, and just to need that little bit of oomph to make sure that the magazine is fully seated. So compare that as to the full size, and you can see you've got that little bit of wiggle room right there. That's how it should fit. I did reach out to Oracle Arms and they said that that should not be the case, and they tested a couple others and said they were fine. So apparently I got the lucky one with that pre-production pistol where the base plates are touching the inner magwell a little bit. But again, on the production runs, they're supposed to fit nice and loose, or not loose, but with a little bit of wiggle room like they're supposed to, because if it's too tight, you can get some binding issues going on. As far as everything else comes to the controls, those recoil ledges, the trigger, the ambi slide stop, slide release, the magwell, just the overall design of this pistol, I really dig it. It's pretty top notch. Now I know you guys want to see the wear, so let's go ahead and take a look and see kind of how these things are wear and done. And of course, how does this thing actually break down for your factory maintenance? Because it's very interesting. All right, let's talk about our wear and tear here. So we'll take a good look at the full size one first. You can see standard wear across the top of the barrel right there. That's really all that there is on this thing, and that's really what I would expect for having around 500 rounds, a little bit more through this thing. Now, as far as the compact goes, this was a demo gun that's been all the range days, so you can see much more wear across the top of that barrel, but for having as many thousands of rounds as I expect this one does, that's pretty much to be accepted. You can see there's some galling down there on the magwell from all the magazine exchanges. Other than that, everything looks good to go. Now, when it comes to your factory maintenance and breakdown, I'm going to use the full size one here because it's a little bit easier to operate with. You'll notice here on the front, it's got the same notches in that slide that your typical 1911 would. You're going to line it up right there as usual with your slide stop, slide release. But instead of pushing it all the way through from the other side, you'll see down in there, if I can get the light perfect for you, there is a little button that is actually the opposite side of your slide stop, slide release. And you're going to push on that, and it's going to push that directly out through the side. You kind of get a fingernail on that, and that's it. And that's how it will come apart. And your ambi slide stop, slide release will stay in there because it's affixed, and that's pretty simple yet pretty elegant, and I'm kind of surprised nobody's done that before. But that's how you take it apart for factory maintenance and cleaning. And then everything else is pretty simple, just like a standard striker fired rig in there. So pretty simple overall, and a pretty cool way that they went about it. And I'll put this one back together, and let's talk about the wear up in here. So as you can see, all the basic wear that you would expect to see on the rails, across the top of that disconnector, for the amount of rounds that this one does have through it. Now, as far as the compact version go, let's break this one down since it's got a heck of a lot more rounds through it. And see, keep those separate. You can see your frame wear on the front and the rear rails in there, and on that disconnector is what you would expect for a pistol that has this many rounds through it. So you can compare side by side the wear patterns on these, from the full size, it's got about 500-ish, to the compact here that's got multiple thousands of rounds through it. So you have a really good idea of how these things are going to wear, how the hammers are going to be doing on this, and the rails, and pretty much everything else. So pretty cool design. I dig it overall, and that's how they're wearing in. Now, I know some of you are going to need to see the spec sheet with a little bit of music. All right, now the cost and performance on the Oracle Arms 2311s here. These will come with the magic number of 3 magazines. Thank God somebody finally got the message and gave you 3 magazines. It will also come with all of your optics plates with backup sights and a taller front sight for when you actually put your plate and your optic on. Now the price point here is going to be $21.99. Now I know some people probably had a coronary or a heart attack or a stroke or a seizure or whatever it is, because yes, that is not cheap, but think about this thing. So this is meant to compete with modern 2011s, double stack 1911s, and it's a completely new design. So it may or may not be within your budget, but if it's not within your budget, that doesn't mean it's not worth it. It's worth it if you want it, it's reliable, you run it well, and you have a good time with it. That's really what it comes down to. But something like this is not going to be a budget polymer striker fired pistol, and I think oftentimes people confuse things like this with things like a Smith & Wesson or a Glock or something that's 550, 650 bucks as compared to something like this. When you get into something like this, which I'm pretty excited about, you know, a very cool single action 1911 style pistol using modern factory double stack mags, I think is pretty cool and pretty exciting, and I want to see more of it. And I know people are going to talk about the Platypus. Okay, I promise I have one of those coming. It takes Glock mags. It will get a comparison to the Oracle 2311, so hold on to your britches. That is going to be on the way. But if you think it's too expensive and it's not worth that, well, I challenge you. Go ahead, design a pistol like this, go out, test it, proof it, market it. If you can beat the price, I'll buy it. Now, long term, I'm going to see how long I can keep these 2311s here in my possession to get a couple thousand rounds through them and report back to you on how they're wearing in and a long-term reliability. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Keep doing it on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I'll see you all in the next one.